The DISC test identified counselor as your behavioral pattern. From an emotional perspective, you're very approachable, showing affection and understanding. Your goals in life are friendship and happiness. You influence others through personal relationships, through an open door policy. You want to make sure that everybody knows that they can come in and talk to anyone time they need to. You're very valuable to an organization. You remain stable and predictable, developing a wide range of friendships, listening to others' feelings. You have a tendency to take on to yourself the responsibility of making sure that you understand where everybody's feeling. When you walk into a room, you're looking for facial expressions to know what's going on. But you may overuse this whole idea of an indirect approach, or being too tolerant of things, and especially in the area of family parenting, where you let the kids run over you a little bit, and it helps to establish, in that case, standards. Then these standards will be very effective for you if you'll establish standards for yourself that says, look, when this happens, this is what happens, and if you nail those down ahead of time so you know how to react and discipline to do it, then you'll be a much more effective parent. You'll be much more effective as a caregiver, as a counselor, and people will have a tendency to respect that, because they know that you have established standards. You don't just do anything everybody wants. Under pressure, you're going to become overly flexible and intimate, too trusting without differentiating among people. So you might find that it's easy for you to become very trusting and to believe everything everybody says, whether or not it's to your best interest or to their own best interest or not. And so your tendency will be to just believe and be easy believing type person. And setting up those standards, as I mentioned before, will be helpful for you in trying to move away from that and have it being a problem in your life. You fear pressuring people, being accused of causing harm of some kind. And that might be a caution also, is that when you feel like that you can't pressure somebody, take a look at it and understand it from the context of here's what was expected and here's what was actually given. Test performance based upon something that you can measure it against, and don't use somebody else's subjective measuring system. Use your own objective measuring system, so that you have standard, and you know if they have to do this is the standard they have to meet. Did they meet that standard, or did they not meet that standard? If they did not meet that standard, then you know that you can apply some pressure in that area, and don't let people run over you like that. You'd increase your effectiveness more in all your environments by paying attention to realistic deadlines. An initiative to complete the task, so that you don't allow things to get by you just because you haven't finished thinking them through. Make sure that you establish deadlines, that you work toward them, and that you maintain your personal standards in that process. So, a summary. Counselors are particularly effective in solving people problems. So you're going to be the kind of person that could work as a counselor. A counselor would be a strong environment for you to work in, as well as a social worker environment, or in a teaching role, in a role where you're helping people in a departmental role, as on a team, because you'll be able to help keep peace on a team. You'll find issues that are going on among people that you can help smooth out, and you'll take it on yourself to make sure that that's happening. You'll impress others with your warmth, with your empathy, and your understanding. Empathy is a natural leadership capability. It's a natural leadership gift. If you have the ability to be able to empathize with people, to be able to resonate with who they are, with where they're coming from, it'll serve you well, especially in an environment where you're trying to give care and where you're trying to help people through one situation or another. And you look for the good in others. You're consistently looking and trying to find the good, something somebody does good, and be able to encourage them that. And you prefer to deal with others by building long-standing relationships. You want to relate to people on a one-to-one, maybe in small groups. You probably have lots of friends, but in a fairly small group environment where you don't have hundreds of people around you constantly. You offer suggestions gently and refrain from imposing your view on others. And that's very powerful, especially when you're in a caregiving type of environment. You'll tend to be tolerant and patient with non-producers, and that's a problem. That's again where standards come in. If you establish standards, you won't be quite as tolerant, because people will know that, well, I have a standard I have to meet and I have to do that. So if you're in a role that you're in some sort of a management role, or if you're working in the counseling environment or in social work, whatever kind of work you're in, when you find yourself in a situation where you've got to reprimand somebody, you need to have those standards or you won't be able to do it. You'll be able to be way too lenient with people. And you'll tend to place less emphasis on this whole idea of accomplishing things. And in some environments that work, some environments that can work, and others it can be very tough. There are time limits. People pay for having things done in a certain amount of time. You only have so much time to raise your kids, so you've got to get things taken care of. But in your world, you're not as much worried about accomplishing the task as you are seeing the person grow and seeing the person take care of. Counselors are often criticized as being that they take criticism as a personal affront. In other words, when you get criticized, it's like a personal attack on you. And I wouldn't doubt that that's exactly what's happening in your life. When somebody comes at you, you kind of back away, you get shy, and it upsets you, and you don't want to be involved in that. But just understand that just because somebody comes at you like that doesn't mean that they don't like you as a person. Often these kind of attacks come because maybe you've been a little bit too lenient, and you need to develop your standards better. And remember this tool I gave you as standards, because using standards is the way to go. If you'll establish objectives, create tasks to accomplish those objectives, and then hold the accomplishment of those tasks to a certain standard that you set yourself, you'll find yourself much more productive. And the other thing that you will do is you'll tend to be the type of person that gives a lot of praise to the people on a team and to the people in your environment. So, a counselor, I hope you've enjoyed this, and